Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. I have to thank the Clinton Leadership Institute for inviting me as a masterclass presenter today, and I have to thank you for dialing in today. I understand that some of you have already attended some masterclasses in this series. Others are alumni of our regular courses, so I have the pleasure to welcome you back. For those who are new to this, I hope you enjoy the format and have a good digital experience. In today's masterclass, I'm excited to talk about distinctive leadership in the digital age, which is a very relevant and timely issue given the speed of acceleration in the digital area we are seeing right now and the impact leaders can have on the course of action. Actually, the focus is very much on the leaders. They are under the microscope, and so are their digital leadership practices. My name is Ulf Bosch. I'm a professor of practice in management and leadership with Queen's Management School. I have been working in management consulting for 20 years and have been trained at business schools in China and in the UK. By the way, on the right-hand side, you see our beautiful red brick Riddle Hall campus, which is the home of the Clinton Leadership Institute. And I hope we have the chance to have an in-person session very soon there together. So in today's masterclass webinar, we will provide an understanding of what is digital leadership all about, why distinctiveness is so important, why is it key, and how you as an organizational leader can fulfill your role effectively in a technology-driven environment along the lines of engagement, collaboration, performance, and transformation. These four elements are really the hallmarks of leadership. Why? Because for a leader, for leadership effectiveness in a world that is digitalized, that is digital by default, it's important how we engage with each other, how do we treat each other in a digital world, how do we collaborate. We can collaborate well, but maybe not treat each other well. And how do we achieve our goals, performance? And finally, how do we reinvent ourselves, how do we transform and develop ourselves further? So these four aspects, and you can align any activity, any task of a leader to these four aspects. So it's a very powerful reference framework, not only for leadership, but also for mission, vision, and culture. It's all about these four elements. And if you project it to the external environment, not to your organization, but externally, you can even use it for strategy. So no matter what your role in your organization right now is in terms of leadership, if you master these four elements, it can really boost your effectiveness as a digital leader and sets you apart in terms of a well-rounded leadership profile. In our more extensive course, which we are currently planning later in the year, we will provide all the strategy, tactics, and tools to build this kind of portfolio of digital leadership skills, which leader then can apply to their context. So digital leadership and leadership in general is a vast topic. It can mean different things to different people. So the question is, what exactly makes a great leader? So if I talk to leader about leadership, I'm getting exactly, funny enough, this kind of responses. They're saying, yes, authenticity, knowledge, you need to be knowledgeable, you need to inspire people, daring risk-taking, it was in the list we just put in the poll, energy, enthusiasm, of course, and some other aspects like empathy, inclusiveness, intuition, team spirit, cooperation, and also more performance-oriented, achievement focus, getting things done, pragmatism, hardworking, and some more intellectual skills like conceptual consistency, fairness is a big one as well. So basically, you can cluster them into more relating aspects, more impacting aspects, which is about achieving goals, and about more thinking aspects, about the the intellectual capacity. This is based on a Gallup themes framework, which is very powerful to use. So this is like a snapshot of what you think, and it's very much aligned with the discussions I have. But let's have a look at how leadership evolved. And leaders in the business world, they come in very, very different types. And I can remember when I was doing my undergraduate studies and also MBAs, it was all about this rock star leadership types. So it's portrayed in the Wolf of Wall Street, and it's also exemplified by GE, the GE company, and Jack Welch. You may know Jack Welch. He has been voted the manager, the leader of the century by Forbes, and they were all about this rock star in winning type of leadership style. However, we all know Wall Street is very much under pressure for they are blamed for greed, for excessive risk taking, for all the public bailouts, and also GE went from the company with the highest valuation, market valuation in the world, to being kicked out of the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index just in 2018, and Forbes again wrote GE a major management or total management failure. So what we're seeing is that this kind of very charismatic, larger than life leadership styles often destroy value more than they have created initially, and it's partly due to, we see here, winning to an attitude that is I win and somebody else loses. So this is not very sustainable. Or maybe the shoes were too big for the successes, or some issues were just like brushed under the rug and turned up later in the development. So this is about the GE lesson learned. So nowadays we are seeing more this kind of servant leadership, and you all have maybe recognized some of these. They're not all servant, but they are at least they portray a different style, more modern style of leadership in the business world, but also in the more public sector. And this leadership is brought about because digitalization has written a new rule book for leadership. So let's have a little bit of a look at the definitions that exist. We are coming from a university background, so there is a very high popularity of the leadership topic in the literature. However, because of that, or despite of that, it's not really clearly defined. Here are some established definitions we can find in leadership, about leadership. So Max Weber was talking about it's a source of influence and it's domination. Packard said it's an art of getting what you want through others. Some others say, it's a very interesting one, I like it a lot, Peter Drucker, he's saying it's neither an art nor a science, it's a practice. And it's defined by results and attributes. So we're not looking at these characteristics of the leader, his profile, but more on the results and attributes. Somebody else says it's a capacity to translate vision into reality. Very nice. A very popular one is from Kotter. It's about adaptive change, driving change. And others say it's a context where you can fulfill your potential. So it's more about development of your team, development of others. And another definition is more about a processual viewpoint to achieve common goals and through the influence of individuals. So this is the definition, but what really makes somebody or makes a person excel in a leadership role? It's a definition of leadership, but it doesn't tell us how and why people become leaders. So if you have a look at the leadership theories, these often focus on the characteristics, on the traits of the leader. They focus on the situational aspects, so the environment where the leaders are acting, and they're looking at some kind of behaviors, and we have a few of them. So authoritarian leadership is more about like the great man, and that you exercise this kind of domination. It's again Max Weber. Contingency is about the timing and the place. Authoritarian is about also control and power. Contingency and is more about the situation where you apply leadership. And other influential leadership theories, action-centered, it's John Adair, transformational leadership, transactional leaderships. They focus on getting things done, and also servant leadership, I mentioned that, and like authentic leadership, more on behaviors and congruency. Here's an overview. I don't get into details, just the major ones like Max Weber, Kurt Lewin, and also John Adair. He has a very influential one with the action-centered leadership. And often it is said that the transformational leadership is the most effective one. And recently, Hershey Blanchard, not recently, but still nowadays, situational leadership is one of the most influential ones. What we see here is that it's really a lot of different theories out there, a lot of them. It's like a stew of theories, and we can't really make sense out of it. Where does digital leadership fit in? Is it one of these? Is one of these applicable to the new environment, to the new normal? So it's it's a very interesting question. What has changed, and how does it relate to these theories? But let's ask somebody in the practical, in the real world about it, or collect a little bit of their insights. I found one about leadership which resonates with a lot of people. It says it's about decisiveness, daring, patience, empathy, and know-how. A little bit what you said in the initial survey. You were going for analytics and know-how, daring as well. Patience is also very important, probably for a leader. Empathy. And this person is quoting that this will actually never change. We just saw the leadership theory saying everything different, totally different explanations. And in practice, some practitioners say they will never change, regardless of the external developments and advances. This was coined by John Harvey Jones. He's like a very famous UK industrialist. He's like the godfather of turnaround management, and he was very much influenced by John Adair, but he has come up with this kind of definition. He's always saying it all stays the same. It's about solving problems, creating experiences, and driving the business growth. So the practitioner is saying nothing has changed. The theory is saying totally inconsistent to each other, different reasons why we exist. So what is really now the deal with digital leadership? And I suggest we have a little bit a look at the practical world. So whether we are aware of it or not, or whether we like it or not, we engage in digital leadership every day. Every day. Give you a few examples. If you host a virtual team meeting, it's digital leadership. If you ask questions in a video conference, you exercise digital leadership. You respond to an email. You can do it in very different way. You can CC everybody. You can make it personal. You can make it very formal. It reveals your leadership. You write a blog. You give access, or you block all your times in your calendar. You give transparency to your calendar. You post an update. You update your profile picture, like a formal one with a tie, or more with a T-shirt, or how you look on your picture. You give feedback on an HR platform. All these evaluations are going through platforms, through software as a service. And you customize your dashboard, what is important for you, what excites you about your leadership role, what do you want to see in terms of your steering criteria. That's just examples. What is digital leadership? And we can see these are the interfaces you are having, the touch points you are having in a digital environment. And it's a limited number of touch points you are having, and these are shaping the experience others have with you as a leader. That's very important. If that is the stage for digital leadership, and it sounds very pragmatic or very limited, but how can we convey all that, what we need to convey as a leader through a platform? If these are the interfaces. And if we think more about it, it's also the interface a company has with its employees. Of course, they have a brand, they have a culture behind it, but these are really the digital interfaces you are having. So I hear a lot, nothing has changed. Okay, we are moving into digital, we are now working from home, we have this remote working thing, but actually nothing has changed. We are just using different tools. We move from one platform, we move from SAP to SAP, and everything is fine. So nothing has changed. However, what we're seeing, this seesaw is somehow turning. So somehow new ways of leadership are setting in. And we have a closer look, what are the triggers for them? Of course, we have the mega trends. There's the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. We have digitalization, we have shared economy, gig economy as well. We have sustainability. It's a very, very big one, like the circular economy. So all companies and organizations need to jump on a circular business model if they want to survive in the future. And demographics. So all the millennials are coming into the companies, and also the customer base is totally influenced by new generations. So this is on the mega trend side. On an organizational level, we are talking about standardization, user-generated content, data analytics, business ecosystems, and remote working. I will have a closer look at all of these on the next pages. So standardization. Actually, what I heard in my discussions is, or what I learned, digitalization is all about standardization. And one CEO of a company, CFO of a company who has the same name as I have, but I'm not associated, he said the price we have to pay, or standardization is the price we have to pay for our flexibility. What he means is, not to use all the benefits of digitalization, we need to pay the price of standardization. What companies are doing, and COVID-19 is a wake-up call to move from their legacy systems to really end-to-end backbone platforms, often in the public cloud. Public cloud is like internet-based, and the big advantage is you have all the storage capacity that you can scale. And a lot of these on-premise systems, like an ERP, enterprise resource planning system, they have limited capacity. So if you would do this kind of video conference and would store that or would record it, you would run out of space of storage very, very soon. So you need to go on this and updates and all this stuff. So you're moving to from an on-premise thing, which is very customized, very individual, to a standardized fit-to-standard platform. And it has all these kind of peripheral applications, for example, like the Salesforce application. So it's going really from contact to cash in your business cycle. So it's totally different. And if you say, hey, we're going from customized to standardized, everything stays the same, it doesn't. You have to go in this, or the companies are moving in this direction. Another one is user-generated content. And in digitalization, content is king. But this content is not anymore created at the top and officially like broadcasted through the hierarchy, top-down broadcasting. No, it's now more, it's created everywhere. So social media and other platforms have, like collaboration platforms, have really given the public media into the hands of everybody. So now you have a lot of the content is created by the users, and it's filtered by artificial intelligence. So you can't really control anymore. So the filtering is not done at the top or like authorized, but it's done in an agile and often by artificial intelligence. Another one is data analytics. So digitalization forces all employees and especially the leader to ask the so what question. What do I mean by that? So often a lot of tasks is about capturing things. It's about collecting, capturing things, arranging things. But in the digital world, we are moving from this more manual hands at keys to a read and comprehend and insight to action. So we need to have analytical skills to make sense of the data and translate it into action. The hands at keys activities will all be done by robotics or process automation. So these jobs, we are moving in this direction, and the same is for leadership. We need to be inside to action. We need to work with data, and we need to translate it into direct action. Another one is business ecosystems, and that means we are going from the win attitude I just indicated with the rock stars to a more shared economy, or we call it also ecosystem. It is an ecosystem like a biological ecosystem, but of companies, different companies across industries. And it can be a business ecosystem, but it can also be an innovation ecosystem, like open innovation, or it can be like an information ecosystem. And it's totally different, because the win-lose attitude is I capture my profit, I ring-fence that, and I want to get my monopoly, my market power. But this is more about, okay, I have a purpose, I have a vision, what I want to give to to the public and the consumers, and I can achieve that only through others, like outside of my company. We are talking about in the silo about hierarchies. In the ecosystem, it's a network. We talk about controlling things, top down, and here it's about empowerment. I have a very nice quote from a Silicon Valley leader later on about this empowerment. It's from planning, because we may not be able to plan it, to experimentation. And it's from like locking it and from the privacy aspect to a transparent aspect. So we're moving to these ecosystems. And McKinsey report did a research. They said 7 of the top 12 companies, according to market valuation, are ecosystem players. So this is the future. Another one is remote working. So we all experience that firsthand, and we are doing it right now. So it's not bumps on seats, which is actually a positive connotation. So we have this nice corner office, or not like offices at least, and it's going in the direction work from where you like. And it's about working from home, but there's also like the trend of the digital nomads. Oops, sorry. Digital nomads are people who are really living at these places they like to spend their time on, and then traveling around. And this also changes. It's a fundamental change. Apart from this, where we work, it's also about how we work. And we all experience that digitalization is everywhere, so it's in the office. And in the office, we are now working with the software applications like collaboration tools, workflow tools. We work with artificial intelligence, or we work with video conferencing. I think we are using Zoom today. And this is about like the office environment or the home office environment. But it also takes place in the shop floor environment. We have augmented reality in Internet of Things, IoT. We have robotics, I mentioned that. And we have like real-time performance visibilities that all influences how our production, our value chain, our production system is operated. So apart from these technology changes or changes for the organization, there's also a change in the leadership agenda, especially a sort of mindset change. And I did at a time I did a project with a company which is very similar to GE, but like the European counterpart to it. And they were very traditional, and they read the signs of the times and said, okay, we need to instill some change. And then they went from an old working style. It was an enterprise solution division. So they were working in IT, and they said we have a hardware thinking. We are very slow. We are bounded by our technology. So we have this kind of very traditional company style. And they said, and we did an analysis on that, we want to be more fresh. We want to be more agile and progressive. And we need a sort of software thinking. And this was a huge change, and the analysis brought about that the old ways of thinking were precautious, the new ones bold. Quite reactive to developments, proactive. Traditional, progressive. Vertical, network. We saw that with the ecosystems. Hierarchical, they wanted to be in tribes. Rank, meritocracy. Meritocracy is a terminology that refers to you earn your role not based on tenure or hierarchy, but more on the contribution you are doing. So it's flat, but your contribution is the yardstick. So you're going from resources. In the old times, you always said, hey, I have this company size, this revenues, this size of employees, and here we're going for results. We go from task to client, that's important. Methodological, we go to agile, process to ecosystem, directive to empowerment, do the work, achieve the goal, keep it, break it. That's a good one. Authority to collaboration, credibility to curiosity. Sorry, that's a long list. On-site to remote, conformity to diversity. That is to say that there's a big change. It's really a big change. And what this company did, they relocated to a hip location and started from scratch because they can't really change the mindset at the location they were. So they went to they should have gone to Belfast maybe, but they went to Berlin because that is like a very vibrant and hip environment for them. So knowledge and contribution, another one, rethink. I came across a leader who's really exemplifying this new leadership style, and I don't know whether you know Jack Dorsey. You probably have heard about him, and he's the CEO of Twitter and also of Square One, a mobile payment organization. He's a self-made billionaire, dropped out of university, and he has really a very bold and a very team-oriented leadership style. By the way, it's just an accident that he looks exactly the same as the drawing here. Look at this. It's a coincidence. And he's really saying a few things that also exemplifies the new leadership style. Be a leader, not a decider. He says, if I have to decide things, we have an organizational failure. Because everybody should be in these roles, so the decision should not be like overruled or done by one person alone. The second one is also good, empower employees. He's saying, if you need my name to bring across a point, there's little merit to the point at the first place. So if you can't do it in your own name, your point is not good enough, you know. So this is, he's coming up with some very interesting parts, and also the last one, make every detail perfect and limit the number of details to perfect. So it's about simplicity, but being also still perfectionist here. Another digital leader who's exercising a similar leadership style is Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, COO, and she's saying done is better than perfect. And we are coming to this, what we are doing in digital leadership, really hands-on, and done is really better than perfect. We can't, it's not about sophistication anymore or perfection. We can't achieve that. We need to move fast, and done is the thing to do. And we are bold. We can't be too much afraid. So these are new leadership styles. But what they really are also summarizing is that you need to develop an own very unique leadership style. Be courageous about that. You can't follow the mainstream. And I work with Google. It was mentioned. We wrote a book, Digital Off-Road. It's all about that you need to leave the mainstream. So all companies and a lot of leaders are following the same mainstream in terms of leadership style and how they drive digitalization. But actually, Google is saying you need to drive from the highway into the open land, in the off-road. But the problem is out there, you don't have the signpost anymore, or you don't have the highway anymore. You need a purpose, and you need to work on this kind of a North Star, on this purpose, in order to do your own thing in terms of digitalization, but also in terms of this kind of leadership. We have another interesting phenomenon, and there was an excellent article in the New York Times. It's called the use problem of Silicon Valley. And it says the major threat of Silicon Valley companies is they don't want to become dad's company. They don't want to become dad's company. We can say mom's company, but dad's company. And what is the point behind that is, if a company is that old that your parent, your dad could work in there, it's not attractive for the younger generation anymore. And that is the start of the end of these Silicon Valley unicorns. So we have this baby boomers, Generation X. They say, hey, I'm doing something that matters. And the younger generation is saying, hey, when are you going to do something cool? So it's a generation, like a demographic divide. And that is also a very big topic for leaders, because you don't want to be dad's leader. You don't want to represent that. And how do you, and you probably, your leader from this millennial generation, you step in. So, but you need to be aware how to lead this newer generation in your company. And it's very clear that both technology but demographics are positively disrupting the leadership style. And here are a few learnings. I talked about this off-road thing. So you need to have a purpose, and this purpose is really something that the younger generation is asking for. And I talk also to clients and try to dig out what are their purpose. And it's not about this increasing the value of the company. So it's really important to provide this transcending purpose to the workforce, especially the younger one. You need to be up to speed with technology. You can't work with your old Nokia handy anymore, or mobile phone anymore. You need to be really up to speed with digital gadgets and digital applications. That's just, you have to do it in order also to have the new workforce on board. You really need to pay attention to the work-life choices. So it's not all work. Like the hard-working, around-the-clock, job-for-life attitude is not what the younger generation is seeking, and that resonates with the remote working. And you need to be very much giving feedback and engaging very, very closely. So that is a little bit of learning from the demographic divide. And if you look at leaders from a capability point of view, and this is summarizing a little bit what we're having here, so you need to overcome higher hierarchies and silo mentality. That's important. establish a culture where you also acknowledge errors. It's not about we are all perfect, but we try and then we do it right. Create meaningful work in order to motivate. Shared responsibility, it's about empowerment. Creativity, you mentioned that in your initial survey results. And innovation in your team. Creativity is one of the assets that are very, very rare, because organizations don't often cultivate it or nurture it in the right way. So, and it's if you look a little bit in the future, it's all about design thinking. So creativity is so much it's like the one guarantee of survival in the future. So insight from data, we talked about this. Talent management, it's a key discipline. It's a leader's discipline. You can't outsource that to HR, and you can't outsource it to HR platforms like SuccessFactors or Workday. You need to open an open dialogue, very candidly, feedback, and you need to have a really a strategy that is transforming. Not only like transferring your business model, like digitalizing your business model, but really have a digital business model. So if you now look at what makes the leadership by default agenda, we have the 4 building blocks. We have digital engagement. How do we engage with each other? How do we treat each other in a virtual environment? We have digital collaboration. I mentioned that in the beginning. How do we arrange our teamwork? How do we work together? We need to collaborate, ecosystem approach. How do we achieve our goals? How bold are we? How can we do it? How do we do that? And finally, how do we transform, reinvent, change the organization? These are the 4 building blocks. We have them here: collaborate, performance, and digital transformation. As I mentioned, these are the hallmarks of leadership. You can align everything you do in leadership about that, and it helps to create a well-rounded agenda. You sometimes see leaders who are perfecting one of these dimensions, but this will come back to them. You need all in order to be successful as a leader. I have a few insights on some of them. As I mentioned, we have an opportunity to go in a course deeper into the details and how to shape or how to craft really the profile in each of these dimensions. But this is what we need to take into consideration with digital engagement. First of all, connectivity. Connectivity means you need to get current, you need to get operational with all the different platforms and use them simultaneously. You need to have a bandwidth in the digital environment. You need to get operational. And the interesting part for leaders is it's not about I walk to the room of a video conference room and somebody else has set it up for me. No, it's do it yourself. It's all do it yourself, and it's all like a self-service. You need to find these applications in your suites, in your productivity suites, and you need to operate it yourself. There's little help you can get as a leader, so you need to get connected. If you are lagging behind here, it's very important to catch up. Secondly, I mentioned content is king, and content is the currency to engage with other people or to contact them. So the user-generated content, also the leader is generating these contents all the time. It gives you an opportunity to engage with your team, with others. And the more creative and inspiring the content is, not boring, you can more often do that and really motivate and drive people. So the ones who can generate this content easily are at an advantage. The other thing is cadence, and cadence means you need to have the right frequency in your engagement. In a physical environment, it's easy to walk through the corridor or greet somebody in the canteen and have these informal and frequent interaction points. But in a digital environment, you really need to demonstrate discipline and the desire to keep the ball rolling, because if you don't, you get these breaks, you get these dry outs, and the cadence really is what you need to achieve. And this is quite difficult because you don't have this physical presence, which normally covers a lot of things here. Comfort zone or comfort. In digital, it's done is better than perfection. You need to be comfortable with a minimal viable deliverable. You need to just do it. And this is very important, because if you don't do it, there's a concept, it's called cost of delay. And it's exponential. So if you delay something, you may end up never doing it. It doesn't make sense anymore. So you need to keep going. You need to be comfortable to put yourself out there and to not go for perfection, not for sophistication, but for doing it and for the speed of doing it. It's a sort of agile. But if you want to have 100%, you have really a problem as a digital leader if you just need to show your face somewhere. For example, if you want to do an announcement and you do it perfectly and you have a polished script and you read it from the script, you can't do that. It's better you have a few sentences in your own words, even if the so-called red pen would not approve of it. It's much more impactful, and that is how you do it. And finally, care. And care is very important because in a remote environment, especially in a remote environment, the whole morale of the team and the loyalty of your staff depends on how much you care. So it's not, again, about perfection, it's about affection. And we really need to convey that digitally. And that's a real problem, because conveying empathy through digital channels takes effort. And we are not, a lot of leaders are not wired towards conveying emotions through a digital environment. And it's very important to make that a priority and to demonstrate care. And these are the 5 C's in digital engagement. Of course, it needs to be virtual and mobile. We do have the digital collaboration, and just a few words about that. We're moving from this silo model into a more ecosystem environment. And basically, to collaborate, we have the formal and informal collaboration. And we all can do still the formal collaboration. For example, we can define specific goals, like SMART goals. We can have our project plans and really line them up. We can have our RACI, like roles and responsibilities, and we can measure. So basically, the formal aspects of collaboration, we can get them going. But all the more informal aspects, like touch points, like you walk by, you look into the office, at the canteen, at the kitchen, and so on. You have a small chat, unofficial conversations, walkthroughs. You show somebody, like looking over the shoulder, like shadowing somebody, or you do in a risk-free environment some sparring. It's not that organic in the digital environment. You need to curate this kind of opportunities. And because in digital, you always have a recording, you always have like a digital footprint. It's not risk-free anymore. So you need to really try to craft this space in order to have the informal collaboration going. Otherwise, it really hinders your collaboration effectiveness. So we also have some help from like demand on device, gamification tools, serious games. You can try to use this kind of applications in what you want to do, visualization. The goal needs to be clear. You want to create this informal and emotionally resonating experience in the digital world. One of the 4 elements was performance management. How do we achieve our goals? And I came across a very interesting article in the Wired magazine, and it says this remote working thing is excellent until you want a promotion. And that is an interesting aspect to think about, because all the merits that is associated with the working remotely, it's quite important how you demonstrate your value to the company and because performance, like perception, is reality. And if you, in an office environment, much more of your work can be conveyed in the daily interaction, and you need all that to demonstrate in the virtual environment. And the statement here is that if you have a mixed environment, it's becoming a really big problem, because you may have inequality in how you develop people. And on the other hand, you as a leader are ultimately judged by how you develop somebody. That's actually the yardstick you as a leader are measured against. So if somebody is remote, doing a great job, and you as a leader not having the right cadence, not the right care, and not really catching somebody doing good, you can't do that in digital so easily. This person will not appreciate you as a leader. So it's really an important aspect. How do we develop people in a digital environment? Performance. Other aspects are, of course, performance becomes much more transparent in terms of you can rank, you have performance figures, big data, much more available, and so on. So, but this is a really important aspect in terms of digital leadership. The other one, and Kotter stated that with adaptive change, you need to be at the forefront of driving the change, because you are pulling your whole teams, your whole organization through the change curve that we probably all know. And you need to go through this change curve. For example, digitalization, standardization, all that what we had a look at is a big change for everybody, for the leader as well, but he or she needs to go first through this valley of despair, and then climbing the emotional, up the emotions to a successful stage. So that is what is really key and part of the job description of a leader in the digital environment. Building capabilities, instigating change, and as also for leaders to take into consideration is it's possible and easy, not easy, but takes effort, but it's possible to become a digital leader. It's not just about charisma. Of course, some leaders are more wired into how to put things out in a digital sphere and engage people in digital, but it can be learned, and behaviors can change over time. It can be learned in practice, and it's a thing of self-discovery, especially to form this kind of unique leadership style where you say, this is what I'm all about, and this is how I put it out there. As a wrap-up, we engage in digital leadership every day, whether we like it or not, and the stage for digital leadership is focused on a few interaction points, or a number of interaction points. You can grade them. There's actually a change. It's not like nothing has changed. Digitalization has written a new rule book for leadership. And it's not like leaders just converting their daily interaction into the digital space. It's completely different. Technology, demographics are changing everything, and new ways of leadership are gaining the upper hand. Leaders need to create a unique leadership style of their own, especially in the digital environment. and they need to engage through technology, seamlessly collaborate, manage performance, and drive organizational transformation. In the end, if they do so, if they master these aspects, especially these 4 elements, it becomes all new and future-proof leadership approach that is human-centered and also technology-enabled. This is like the official part. Do we have any questions, Sue and Rachel?
We do indeed, Ulf, and thank you so much, first of all, for that really effective presentation delivered in terms of your own leadership advice with purpose, action, and pace. So the feedback has been brilliant. So for those of you that can stay for another couple of minutes for questions, we have one participant asking, what would your #1 tip be for leaders at this time, Ulf?
That's a good one. Obviously, I have the 4 tips because the 4 elements are really dear to my heart and very effective. But if there's one single tip, I would say it's the cost of delay, because it's all about this kind of being on time, like speed. We need to get it done, and not the perfection part. And that goes very much against our instincts and nature. And but that is something we need to overcome. We need to be courageous on that. And I would say the cost of delay is one of the biggest learnings I do have. As a recommendation we need to take in mind.
Excellent. And Ulf, another question. In terms of organizations, how might they harness technology successfully?
How can they harness technology successfully? Successfully. We have seen in the discussion that standards are the way to go. Whether we like that or not, it's all about this standardization. And the use of technology, the more consistent the whole end-to-end technology backbone and all the whole infrastructure is set up, the more consistent it is, the more fast and scalable it is. And this is a big change management aspect, because you have so many stakeholders for all of these systems. And if you have been lucky enough to be part of an implementation team for any of these solutions, you will know that these stakeholder interests are maybe legitimate, but it's very difficult to get a coherent and integrated solution. So Johannes is the best if you have it end-to-end integrated and reel in everybody who's has different interests.
Excellent. And Ulf, we've seen the swift changes that, for example, even business units such as the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute have had to make as a result of COVID-19 and the really swift changes we've made internally with our online and interactive delivery. We've had a question from another participant asking about universities as a whole and how they can enact their own digital change and how that may change the experience for students moving forward.
Yeah, that's a very good one. And I had a lot of thinking about and first-hand experience with that already. What we need to acknowledge is that it's the digital environment doesn't give all this, I call it organic opportunities, and that is true in the classroom, because students, participants are learning in the classroom much in a different way. They learn from their peers, and in a digital environment, this kind of looking over the shoulder and interacting in the classroom is not that organic. And to create that takes much more effort, and it needs to be seen how much more value it can create or less value it can create. So I do think the experience is different. I think it's not much of an option right now, but moving forward, I would always consider like hybrid options, even if that article didn't champion that too much. But I'm sure the learning experience needs to be enriched by in-person interaction, and this will come back, and probably we will end up with a more digitalized, but still with these talking points. From a value proposition, I think it's totally different. It's in a totally different ballpark if you have a pure digital curriculum and towards a campus-based one. And I give you an example. I was doing my MBA in Shanghai with SEEPS and China Europe International Business School, and they have a very, very nice campus. And a lot of like international MBAs like Harvard and other Kellogg and other schools, they just like had hotel rooms. So if you do have a campus, it is a different experience. It's a totally different value proposition. So I truly believe purely online versus this offshoring in hotels versus this campus-based teaching is different kind of propositions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the message, the clear message is that we really need to really work with pace and, as you mentioned, not focus on perfection, but essentially getting things done fast. That's excellent, Ulf. So that's all of the questions. We've had lots of really positive feedback. Everyone has really enjoyed the session, and just to confirm that the video of today's session will be available on our YouTube channel a little bit later on. That's the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute YouTube channel. For those of you that would like to register your interest for our proposed course featuring Ulf on digital leadership and distinctive leadership, drop us a line on our email address. So it's leadershipinstitute@qub.ac.uk. You'll find all of the details on our website. And just to thank you all very much for attending this morning. It's wonderful to have you all on board, and we do look forward to having you on one of our webinars in the near future. Many thanks again, Ulf. A pleasure to host you today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.